I'm Etzion from Israel, Haifa. Today is the 14th of September 2024. As usual, we start with a musical piece performed with my Haifa wind band under the conduction of Maestro Shiri Kahana. Later on, we'll continue to discuss the book of Genesis. And after that, I want to talk a little bit, for a while at least, about the problems of healing, karma, and sanskaras from personal point of view. So we'll start with the musical piece. Okay, it was a musical piece. Hope you enjoyed it. See you now. Okay, I hope you had a good time. You're still muted if you wanted to comment something. If not,
No.
what it is, I'm learning how to run all these Zoom meetings slowly. Learned how to prepare it. Have to study it a little bit, not so bad. First, I have to apologize for the holy community concerning my rusty voice. This is a consequence of eating, chewing constant rough sanskaras over almost 50 years for Baba's command. Maybe next week I'll go to an expert who might improve the situation. If not, that's what it is. Baba wants me to continue with these meetings, come what may. So I'll continue as long as I can. Okay. I think it's considerably understandable and coherent. You can, if somebody wants, can send him the PDF or the Word document of the talks, the book of Genesis, and keep on translating it from Hebrew to English, and continue to share the book of Genesis. After the book of Genesis, we'll read it for a while. I wanted to discuss a little bit concerning what you sent me concerning healing, etc. So I'll share some of my personal experiences in this field, because even in this field, Baba took the pain to teach me something. And as you understand, so far, whatsoever I have been sharing is not intellectual understanding, but personal experience under the directives of the Avatar himself. And when I was sharing with the people, for example, last night, we had a sharing with a group, it was actually Thursday night, with a group of the group reading of creation and its causes. After the meeting, we had a long personal discussion with various people concerning various problems, and they were interested. They'll explain the phenomenon of war from a personal experience. Many are talking about this without understanding. And the book of Genesis, of course, has been dealing profoundly with all these human problems. Everything is self-created. We have to understand it. Okay, I'll show the book of Genesis now. We reach the page of the creation of man last week. 3 times the creation of man is being mentioned. First, the human body appears, which is actually the sum total of all bodies in the creation. The tremendous urge of the creation to return to its pristine unity created spontaneously the body that we call the human body, which is a sum total of all the attempts of the universe to come back to oneness. But this is just the beginning of a very, very long journey after we assume the human body. It's not the end, it's the beginning. Later on was added self-consciousness, the ability to shape, to build, to invent things, and to change. This is a second creation of man. Actually, now man starts to create himself. Every person uses the mental tools which he developed within himself or herself during the processes of the evolution of consciousness and establishes himself as a thinking, ingenious being which can invent, build, and destroy. Finally appears a spiritual man, which the apex of his consciousness is a manifestation of the divine qualities on earth. What meant here by the word image is not only the physical shape, but the expression of the divine qualities which men supposed to keep on discovering mistake, thank you, to manifest in daily living. In Hebrew, image is tselem. In the Hebrew sentence, it's written that God created man in his image and likeness, but in Hebrew it is Betzalmo. Betzalmo is a tselem. Tselem is a statue, is an image, and it is also derived, the root word is tsel. Tsel is shadow, meaning, and this is a deeper meaning, which the English translation doesn't provide, that we, the humanity, supposed to be the reflection, the shadow of the Godhood on earth. In Hebrew, image is tselem, which its root is tsel, shadow. Man supposed to be the shadow of God on earth, a reflection of his sublime qualities. For example, compassion and mercy, patience and renunciation, seeing all that exists as our very being, the ability to act harmoniously in the physical life due to unconditional love, which is the basic of the perfect state or the Edenic state. The third creation, a spiritual creation, is a conscious creation of man who took responsibility of his life. This is a man who is not acting from self-interest only, but acts in order to assist all the creation with all its divisions. Such a man has cosmic consciousness. He sees cosmic movements deeply, not only through the limited individual lifespan. He knows the implications of his actions throughout the creation. This is the beginning of the path towards the goal of creation, attaining superconsciousness. The 6 days portrayed in the book of Genesis symbolize also the 6 planes of consciousness when man ascends on the ladder of spirituality. The 7th stage is that of perfection, and there the perfect man attains divine consciousness in the body on earth. The stage of perfection can be termed the state where the person has superconsciousness, but it is not possible to explain to an ordinary person what is superconsciousness, since the only way of understanding it is to obtain such a state. It can be explained only indirectly. For example, that such a person will never lie. It is not possible to break his integrity by any means. All the saints and martyrs over the ages are in this state. and nobody could break them. We have quite many examples of this. They cut them to pieces, and they didn't turn their mind, they didn't change their mind. They stayed focused on the divine, come with me. His moral code is above the written law. He has no need for a book of laws. He is a living manifestation of the cosmic laws, laws that cannot be explained by any book. Such persons are extremely rare, but they exist. Their existence on earth justifies the entire creation. They are the living answers for the cosmic riddle. Superconsciousness is a state where the state of consciousness of that unique individual is equivalent to combined states of consciousness of entire group of ordinary human beings who act together with perfect accord. I would rather name such a person as divine being or shortly as a being, since that at such a stage the physical body is not needed any longer. Consciousness is not a physical phenomenon which depends on the material world. It is not the byproduct of electrical impulses in the brain. The purpose of the physical creation is to provide the means of creating states of consciousness, a temporary scaffolding. When the goal has been achieved, the scaffolding is not needed anymore. The purpose of creation has been to provide the individual the means of attaining the goal of super states of consciousness. The physical creation is not the goal. This is a mistake humanity fell into later on during the processes of existence on earth, and we will deal with this later on. The seventh day, Shabbos, ordinarily we say Shabbat, but at the ending here is F, the TH. Is actually the spiritual state of superconsciousness, the Shabbos day. Now we move to chapter 2, which this actually should be contained in chapter 1, but for whatever reason the sages decided this way. Or it doesn't matter. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Of course, all this which was written is no more, but analogy of the spiritual state. It's not a physical day. Definitely, it's very good. Today is a Shabbos day, and we are resting. We are not doing any physical work for earning money, etc. But here we're going to touch the deeper meaning of this spiritual state. A day in the Bible is a spiritual state. It is a plane of consciousness. 7 cycles of creation transcended to the 7th state of consciousness, the merging of individual consciousness with the cosmic consciousness. The individual achieves infinite consciousness, and thus the purpose of creation was achieved. Later on, we will look again at what the drawing which I made is a cosmic engine, and this illustrates what it is. Actually, the physical person cannot perceive in his current state of consciousness, which sank deeply into matter, what is this seventh state of consciousness. It is possible only through experience and not through any study or intellectual search. Here the human reason reaches its end, and it cannot ever overpass it, but by conscious revolution, which today can be achieved only by the help of a person who has reached this state in former lifespans. The seventh day, Shabbos, cessation of all action, represents the unity of the entire human race as one acting and breathing body, similar to that of a single body. All the organs of the body, which represent the body of nations, when acting harmoniously, can represent the true state of the creation. The human race, united with fraternity, harmony, and peace, is a stage where God, the endless creating beings, reached the purpose of the act of creation, and now they cease from all action. The work has been accomplished. It is possible to see the Shabbos as a culmination of the individual efforts in reaching superconsciousness, but the work of the individual who acts in favor of the cosmos never ends. This is not work in the physical domain. He abides in eternal Shabbos. In the state of mind of the Shabbos, the individual reaches a state in which the darkness of the abyss disappears. This is the very first beginning of Genesis, when it is being mentioned that the Spirit of God is hovering over the darkness of the abyss, of the chasm, and this actually portrays a state where the super I am hovers over the darkness being created by ignorant sanskaras over the eons. In one sentence, the Bible depicts eons and eons of work. It's the greatness of the book of Genesis and can be expressed only in Hebrew. Such a person does not have a subconsciousness full of monsters and black spots. Such a human mind is completely clear, and person resides in complete freedom. He is not affected by any subconscious impulses. All past memories have been erased. All his actions from this stage onwards do not enslave the mind. No more animals are created that sink into the abyss of consciousness and impose consciousness. Therefore, the activity of such a person acting in full freedom is not a binding, meaning he has no more sanskaras left in his subconscious mind. He doesn't create any more sanskaras. The term, the seventh plane, the Shabbos, cessation of all activity, the cessation of all creation of sanskaras for keeps. Person has no more bindings, and he is one with the consciousness of the Godhead. And if he continues to act on earth, is for to uplift humanity, etc. According to some tradition, Abraham was born directly into the consciousness of the Shabbos. We will be dealing at length at the state of Abraham, which is key in our story. And I must add a personal viewpoint. In fact, I write in these articles my experiences of the processes of creation to which we are all subject. In the past, I said that in the 70s, I took some kind of awareness course abroad. Among other things, there was talk concerning the problem of mental systems contaminated with negative energies, especially hatred. The founder of the course, which also dealt with energetic healing, claimed that in all the cases of cancer patients he treated, he found a deep element of severe hatred. I took it very seriously. Not that I was bothered by one disease or another, but by the mental filth that sizzles in the subconscious of all of us, without exception. The process practiced over the years, and the first stage took at least 15 years, was to light the inner sun in the soul. Call it the superego, the divine spark, or whatever you identify with, the supreme reality. I began to project sun rays onto the darkness of consciousness. They began to come to the surface, meaning the conscious awareness. All kinds of strange and bizarre issues. A kind of monsters from the deep that we discover in the depth of the oceans. It took quite a while to figure out how to handle it, but with the power of perseverance and determination, I went and understood through trial and error with great pain how to work efficiently, mentally detached until that monster became extinct. And in the wake of every extinct monster, a new one emerged, and so on and so forth. It has been an endless assignment, but what initially took about 7 years to wipe out one monster, it now takes a few seconds. Actually, it was during 74 or 75, Baba ordered me to join a spiritual group. It's a long story, which I'm not going to burden you with. And for this, I had to join a spiritual group. The spiritual group was supposedly to re-establish the spiritual circles under the directives of the Divine Beloved. In this ministry, the Yeshua or Jesus Christ. At that time, already had some understanding that Christ was an avatar, manifestation of the Meherabad was the Yeshua, the Christ was a Nazarene, etc. And I was directed to go there, truly against my will. I didn't want to get involved with any spiritual movements, but to do Baba's work. But this was his commandment, direct commandment, which I'm not going to explain it. It's too complicated and it's too disturbing in a way. But in order to undergo such a thing, first you have to relinquish the free will and to accept his total directive and authority, which I have done in the very beginning when Baba entered my life. There are cats running all over the place and now they jump over my head. We have some kind of a zoo here, So actually, because I got involved with this community, unfortunately, the community got corrupted. People took advantage of others. I don't want to get into it. Also, I don't mention names. It's not the issue. The issue was I got emotionally and mentally disturbed, involved. I felt like a fly in the spider web, and I didn't know how to free myself from all these bindings. I tried a few exercises, but failed. And then as it seems, Baba let me stew for some time into all this, and then he stepped in the picture almost physically. At that time, 70s and mid-80s, Baba's presence for me was almost physical. Things would happen all the time, which we can call super beyond the earth, but I've never gave it any importance because everything which is supernatural to me is just a game of choice while you facing the divine beloved face to face. But he used all kinds of methods. So he started to teach me how to erase sanskaras. I mean, actually, shortly after he entered my life and after, due to the nature of my resignation, my first experience was to erase some complicated, difficult sanskara, which he chose, he squeezed it out of my subconscious mind, let me percolate in the hell of this sanskara, and then he wiped it off totally. And then I started to understand, I didn't know what sanskaras are at that time. Only after 1984, when I started to translate the Hebrew, the discourses into Hebrew, and I was meditating, learning the discourses on sanskaras, the nature of the ego and its elimination, etc. And the point is that I had to give everything to him non-stop, so he will clear the sanskaras. I couldn't do it by myself, but he taught me how to do that. He developed a technique of erasing sanskaras within myself and over the decades, as if a sanskaric laundromat was established within my conscious mind, and whatsoever comes to this consciousness is being given automatically to the divine beloved for his work. And I asked at certain stage, I dared to ask him, you are in everywhere and in everything. Why do you need one little me, a speck of cosmic dust, to do this kind of work? And this time he was gracious enough to respond. The answer was like this. I cannot interfere with any individual unless they surrender to me. Otherwise, I will interfere with the free will. As long you abide with your free will, whatever it is, and you don't surrender to me, I cannot help you. This is a cosmic principle. So what to do? So he said, since you, me, this little me, surrender to me, me the avatar, the degree of your surrenderance, I can help all those whom you bring to me. And now, here is a catch. Since I entered the evolution, how many times I was getting married with endless individuals from the very first stage. As I was, let's say, hydrogen, I married oxygen, and the son was, or the daughter was water. And endless times, zillions and endless times, we got married, and all these connections are inside, stored into my subconscious mind. So each time I have been dealing with something, giving it to the avatar, then he can touch into the personality of these individuals. And thus he can help them behind the veil without them not noticing it, and he can uplift them. So this also tells us how important our spiritual work in surrendering to the avatar or the perfect master and doing his work. This is the greatest work at all, which no charity organization can do, bringing people to the threshold of the avatar is the highest achievement of spirituality. And you don't need to be God realized to do this. I'm not God realized. I'm just a guy, like everybody else. Nothing has changed since 72. Just the awareness has changed. The understanding has changed and more experiences gather under the directives of the avatar. But I'm the same guy. So don't say that I'm doing it because I'm spiritually advanced. I'm just like everybody else. That's the whole point. And you can do this. You cannot say, I'm not ready. I heard these people say, I'm not ready. And I looked at them, why is they not ready and I'm ready? What's the problem? They're ready to have a good time and eating and drinking and doing other things to fulfill their desires. But to work for the avatar, to take this pain of work, let the avatar sweat for himself. And people, they call themselves, we are very good Baba lovers. We go to the Samadhi and we do all these artists, etc. But this is the real spiritual work they are not doing. Most of the Baba lovers, unfortunately. This is what I offered is just besides the point. But you should take it to heart. It's a matter of your ongoing movement on the path towards the highest of the high. If you're not going to take this responsibility, you're just playing an imaginary game, you will go nowhere. This process requires the dedication and willingness to deal with internal suffering. The darkness that exists in the subconscious mind is the fruit of our creation over the longest periods of ignorant activity based on selfish animal survival. Now we are obliged to act with understanding that we are all one unity, that we are all brothers and sisters who are supposed to sing the symphony of creation together. It is interesting to note why in this context I didn't say how Baba trained me for this. And if you look at it, it doesn't fit here. But I will continue speaking later on about the avatar, the phenomenon of the avatar, and to bring here the name of the avatar directly, Meherabad would only confuse the reader, since this is interpretation of the Torah, and there is a poem of the Judaic entity concerning avatars and perfect masters, and the phenomenon of Yoshua, the rejected. So what it is, we don't hit face to face, but we go slowly around. It's part of psychological education. When you educate somebody and he has a problem, you don't slam the problem into his face, but you walk as an educator, you take the problem inside yourself and slowly walk in it, and while you're walking it, before the beloved, of course you cannot do it alone, then you will get hints how to eradicate this problematic sanskara. This might take a whole lifespan. Now a new entity appears in our story, Yehovah Elohim, which is translated as God, God Lord, something like this. They don't translate it in English directly, Yehovah Elohim. In the beginning of Genesis, we see Elohim, this is plural, and Yehovah, meaning I am present. In a way, you can translate it. In Jewish tradition, it is forbidden to utter this name. First, we don't know how to spell it, there are no vowels in the ancient Hebrew. So usually we call it Adonai Elohim, the Lord Elohim. Adonai is the Lord, the Master. But here I will have been writing Yehovah Elohim. I'm going to explain the meaning of this new being, which is the main reason of the Torah. And this is a culmination of Genesis. It should have been in the first chapter for whatever reasons, whomsoever. I think that the Christians, at a certain point later on, divided the Hebrew Bible to chapters in their understanding, which was not a real understanding. I'm not going to get into it. In my opinion, this being is a symbol of the state in which all creatures work together in perfect harmony. The many become one unity. For me, what we call God or any other name is a mirror placed before us so that we can see who we are and strive to reach the goal of creation. A person who holds any grudge towards someone else is preventing himself from membership in the circle of Yehovah Elohim. Here I came up with new term, a circle of Yehovah Elohim, and we are going to deal extensively with the meaning of this circle. The ancient or seemingly religious biblical approach is that there is an entity with infinite intelligence that transcends creation, a kind of ancestor trying to manage a gardening of childish individuals in need of guidance. This entity is inaccessible, and all we can do is believe that there is such an entity and follow the laws it gives us so that we will receive a proper reward or punishment for breaking the laws. If mankind acted correctly and joined the idea symbolized by Yehovah Elohim, this riddle would be solved. When I write these words, which are not textual research, but a journey through thought, observation, intuition, I feel that I am reaching areas that language cannot explain or describe. This means that I feel and experience things that cannot be explained verbally. In my understanding, written language, which we see as progress and development on the part of the human race, is probably actually a retreat from the spiritual status in which we were in ancient times. In fact, constitutes a fall into matter. This presumably disturb the sages and all the philosophers and learned people. The language, the writing words, is a culmination of society. It's the beginning of writing about 5,000-6,000 years ago in Sumer, which is more or less Iraq today, Mesopotamia. This was the first time we have discovered writings. Before that, there were glyphs like in the hieroglyphs in Egypt. The glyphs actually came to symbolize spiritual revelations, like a moving picture. In order to read it properly, you had to be initiate. And like the ancient Hebrew initiates, when they read the book of Genesis, they really experience the process of creation. All what I'm trying to explain here, they had the very experience. In reality, they experienced the creation, they experienced the Big Bang, they experienced the movement of the soul on the planes, not intellectually as we are doing here, reading words, but facing the reality. So the book of Genesis in its origin came to unveil reality in a false world, in a world which fell from its spirituality. And this we are going to discuss later on the chapters of the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. There's a whole big subject. And when I call the circle of Yehovah Elohim, we are all being invited to this circle. And there is only one condition. Don't to reach a sixth plane, don't reach any planes has to do with planes of consciousness at all. But one, that's my personal experience after have been working for Baba for decades, and like every 10 years I would receive from him a direct insight or two, supposedly as a prasad, or I don't know what that was his thing, to grant some understanding. So I understand the culmination of a decade of work, 2 decades of work, and he won't tell me in the beginning of work, if you'll work 10 years, this and this is going to happen. But when I accomplish 10 years of work, 20, 30, 40 years, each cycle, I came to new understanding. That's the way it works. You cannot have the understanding in the beginning before you do the work. You work under the guidance of the avatar, and then eventually, slowly, painfully, you have some understanding. This is not some kind of picnic on the plains, and we are not in what I call the spiritual kindergarten that the avatar is going to hold you on his shoulders. If you think that that's what it is, then I feel sorry for you. You're losing this grand cycle. Etc. I can keep on telling you my personal stories. And the prerequisite for entering the circle of Yehovah Elohim, that we cannot afford having any grudges whatsoever within our consciousness. So our mission, this is the highest form of serving God on earth, is to erase any tinge of hatred, grudge whatsoever against anyone, doesn't matter what they did to us. And I wrote an article about this. It's in my website, meherabad.com, and you can search there, find the article which I call Heart Realm Maintenance. Maybe I'll read it again. I shared it in the past. Maybe I'll share it again. You can see it there, and I explain how Baba taught me to do this spiritual work. Also, I called it the meditation of the sun. We have to turn on inwardly the spiritual sun, which is dormant in our consciousness, and this spiritual sun, if we'll walk and we'll abide by this, we'll have the courage to keep on working, eventually it is going to destroy all our sanskaras in the subconscious mind. It is actually not a layer under the subconscious. I call it the subconscious mind, which is not accessible. We have the conscious mind with which we communicate. We have the subconscious mind, the storage of immediate memories. We can remember from childhood. I can remember what happened yesterday. It is not being erased from my memory. I have a memory, but this memory is only of the present. And I can enter the subconscious mind and dig memories from childhood, etc. But under this, there's a subconscious mind, which is not accessible. From the very first beginning, when I started to enter the creation as a atomic individual or whatsoever, or electron, or it doesn't matter the name of it. I don't remember all these things, because if I will go back to all this, then I will have to review billions and billions, ages and ages of in the creation. Will get lost into it. My mind will go insane. That's what it is. So it is not accessible, but it is affects us all the time, because constant waves of energy are emanating from the subconscious mind, and it affects our determination consciousness and enslaves us. So it has to be destroyed by divine wisdom, which can be achieved only as the directives of the avatar and the perfect masters, or the recreation of the spiritual circles. If you would come back to the spiritual circles, and this is the reason why I give the musical piece every time, because the musical band is the closest simile, analogy to the spiritual circle. You see a group of individuals. They're all of them foreign. I don't remember the names of most of the people. We just meet once a week to practice. And besides this, we don't have any almost no communication. And we come together, complete strangers. Each one has his own ego. And we work with perfect harmony, perfect determination. We have to obey the conductor or conductress in this instance. Otherwise, there's no music. All of us want to produce music. And when you listen to this musical piece, we all humans succeed to work in perfect accord. But it's not a spiritual circle because we're not conscious of the being focused on the divine beloved. Without focusing on the divine beloved, this cannot be a spiritual circle. Okay, we'll stop here. On the second age, creation of names, which is actually chapter 2 in the book of Genesis. I'll mark it so we'll know where to continue next time. And after this, stop sharing. You're still here. I hope you enjoy this discussion. Dealing here with the most fundamental issues of living in creation. And when we read the material of Meherabad, it is not being presented as it is being presented here. Baba didn't take the pains of getting into all these details. And my understanding has been that he was so extremely busy with everything, uplifting, destroying the horrible sanskaras we have been creating over the ages, educating and training his disciples, trying to bring some balance to humanity, guiding the worlds, guiding all the madness, insanity of humanity. He had only very little time to give discourses. We have some books of discourses. We discovered now in the archives more discourses Baba wrote in his hand, etc. But when we take all this is just a few books which you could write in a few months. And this is just a speck, a little tinge of his ministry. But these discourses were being used to keep us together, and we get together and study the material, gives us some insights. And like I participate in the Thursday meeting with the creation in causes, interesting community, dealing sincerely, trying to understand the cosmic riddle, but they don't provide it in the way it is being provided here. It's the same material, it's the very same material. Creation its causes, that's what we have been dealing here in Genesis. But if you read it, it's all in the level of our conscious understanding. We're not dealing, the Baba's books are dealing with something 10 miles above our heads. He done it most likely on purpose to show us the limitedness of our intellectual capabilities. There is a reason why he was doing it.
Etzion,
Yes, please.
when you say that the Baba world, they do artsy and they do all these things, but they don't involve themselves in the work. Maybe they don't know how to. Maybe they didn't get the insight.
That's why we are sharing it here.
Yes.
The reason. I'm not first, I don't think I'm better than anyone. It is due to the fact that Baba decided to teach me, not because I'm so clever. Without his teaching, I would be no more but another human idiot on earth, totally ignorant, just another talking animal. But I remain the same person as before. Nothing has changed spiritually. I don't know where I am on the plans, if at all. I don't care
Yes,
about
of
this
course.
at all. I have no concern, but many people on this community, other communities, are very interested with spiritual advancement. The religions in Judaism, it's a very strong thing in Jewish mysticism to advance on the planes and reconnect with the Godhead, etc. I have nothing against it. Don't criticize it, but if you see that all what we have been sharing is down to earth, doing down to earth spiritual work. That is the destruction of sanskaras. It's very practical. Without this, we will not achieve anything. It's a simple thing. We can walk. Each one of us can achieve in this lifespan the state of non-hatreds, non-grudges. We have to walk. I walk inside myself every day now, looking if I keep something against somebody. When I discover such a thing, I'm working on it till this grudge is being eliminated. And I give it to Baba again, 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 till it is being eliminated. Otherwise, I will lose my membership in the what they call the circle of Yehovah Elohim. If I'm that, I believe only after decades of work, I reached the understanding that in order to enter the circle of the avatar and stay there, the realm of perfect love, I have to be in a state of non-hating. We talk a lot about being loving and compassionate and this and that, but if you look deeply at the person, so you will see almost always they keep a grudge. How can you keep a grudge and talk about love? You can't. I don't call myself a loving person. I don't delude myself. Who can love like the God, like Baba? We hurt him, crucifying, nailing him, we torture him on a daily basis. If our mental eye, if our spiritual eye would be open, we would see what we are doing to the divine beloved on a daily basis, we will vomit ourselves from our skins. This very this kind of awakening is very difficult to see the truth of our whatever it is. So actually, well, dealing it happened quite accidentally also that I was speaking about healing and the problem of sanskaras, which I mentioned in the beginning. But I would like to add into it a little bit. In this group, which Baba directed me in the 70s, it was an encounter of a year and a half. After that, I left this group. I said, for whatever reason, things went wrong. Fell apart. The group still exists a little bit. It became a world ministry. All over the world, there were representatives. I could have traveled from city to city in the world and find people who are connected to this ministry. and you could stay there. It was like a home, but the whole thing fell apart due to some egoistic. It's unbelievable. It happens. So also I had here a deep lesson about how things can go wrong with always best motives. It's a sad tragedy because it disturbs. I noted I cannot enter into it, but behind the veil, I felt the Baba was dealing with this group and other groups behind the veil. There was something I noticed in his dates of some of his meetings. I don't wish to get into it. It might be too disturbing and distracting. The point is that we, his lovers, have to do the work of erasing sanskaras, come to the situation of non-hatred, and many people here getting involved with politics. Now we have elections in the United States and other places, and I see how people who are involved with Meherabad are breaking his order not to get involved with politics. I think who knows what it's going to be if this guy or that person will be in the Oval Office in the White House as if they direct the affairs of the universe. Was they give orders to the sun how to radiate? It's totally ridiculous. All these leaders of the world, none of them have any idea whatsoever about spirituality. There's not one single leader in the world who have any idea whatsoever about the purpose of creation. So who cares who sits there? Put there a donkey in the Oval Office. It will be just the same, like a human being who talks. Put there a parrot, it will tell you all kinds of stories. Just the same. There's no meaningless. The things they have a tremendous physical army, and we can do whatever we want. This is all the childish nonsense of humanity. It doesn't matter. What power all the American military has against a barb of the sun? If the sun will barb, there'll be such a tremendous wave that everything will be erased on the planet Earth in an instant, 1 second. Just a flare would be emanate from the sun, everything here would just disappear. Like all the it's like endless atomic bombs at once. It can happen, and it did happen, and it might happen. It's according to the divine plan. And we don't need to be concerned about it. I'm not concerned about it. About healing. Problem of healing is getting involved with the karma of the person. It's very nice. We like to heal people, like to help people. During this training of this group, I was trained as a healer. He gave us a course in healing. This is energetic work, which you do it with your hand. I still can feel the energy. When I put my hands here, I can feel the flowing of energy, and I was pretty good in this. I was helping people in the past, sharing with them, and things happen. And sometimes while you share with people, it can drive to the surface negative things. But since the people don't understand the processes, they might be repelled. And the problem with healers, and there was a warning during the course, that they might get the sanskaras on themselves of the patient. This happens to healers, that due to their zeal and the willingness to help the sick people, they take upon themselves the karma of the patient. And I think I know at least 2 healers who suffered and acutely and died because they didn't understand what they are doing. And you cannot work as a healer unless you are under the directives of a perfect master and avatar. And all the people, you first thing you have to ask yourself if they are under the supervision of a master or they are self-employed. Another big problem is they charge money. Karma sticks to money. Now you say, I'm a healer, I'm helping people, I'm supposed to make a living. This is all perfectly true. In this ministry, there was a donation box outside of the room of treatment, and the patient who was being taken care of, if he was so willing, would leave some donation in the box, and the practitioner or the healer would know what that person if he gave something or not. So it was a clean deal. I remember one of the times, it was the 70s, sometimes early 80s. I felt the urge to practice this method of healing and took care of somebody. I performed some this kind of, it's a non-touch, they call it attunement, to attune the two souls together, etc. But at that time also I had some course in Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais was an Israeli scientist who managed to heal himself from disability. He studied, he invented some system, and I took a course in his system in the 70s to help me to overcome some problems I encountered while studying music. My body was encrusted and I had all kinds of physical complications which had to be unwinded. So he gave me a course with certain lessons. Supposedly, he actually was working on my body, and then I understood the more or less way to do it, which is to massage the organs, the connection of the nerves to the bones where all the pressure is being accumulated. So I took care of such a person that for many years he couldn't bend his knee. And after one session, his knee was bent. The man was so amazed and stunned, and it was before his family or wife. So he took from his pocket the highest note of money at that time and put it in my pocket. And I said, well, maybe this is what Baba is willing, because of course I have been centered in Baba and doing Baba's work and I help people. Why not? Then I got, later on, I felt I had some bad experience while doing healings. That when you do healing, sometimes bad things come up in the patient. So I decided to stop it. I felt not ready. And another prerequisite is total control of our desires. We have first to be in total control of lust, greed, and anger. I felt I'm not ready enough, not mature enough in this respect. I decided to let it go, and I gave him back the money. They put in his mailbox, I think, it was something like this. He didn't say anything, and that was the end of it. But I have learned over the years, keep on working with Baba, the greatest healing is to work, to take the person inside myself, person I'm dealing with, bring it to the Baba's sanskaric landromat, bring it to Baba's threshold. So Baba will take care of him. Of course, a person cannot take care of anyone. So this is a problem of healing. Problem B, Baba lovers, since we have whatsoever communication, connection, heart connection with Avatar, we can help humanity by bringing humanity to the threshold of the Avatar, and we spiritual people, Baba lovers, should learn how to work together with harmony, recreate the spiritual circles. If we will not create the spiritual circle would be qualified to destroy sanskaras and redirect humanity on the spiritual path. This should be not just one circle of 12 people, but at least in the book of Revelation, it is being suggested a circle of 144,000 people. And then you can see this is a magnification of the number 12. which is also a musical scale, we re-establish the cosmic symphony on Earth. And this cosmic symphony would guide humanity back to its Edenic, a perfect state. A perfect state, not everything is perfect. On purpose, God didn't finish the job. He let us finish the job, but he don't understand what is this kind of work and how to accomplish it. We lost it completely. And during our discussions, the work of the Avatar and Perfect Masters to re-establish us on the path, to teach us how to work together. And I see it as unfortunate after the work of Meherabad with his disciples, all of them were part of his circle. We don't have any active circles in the world. In a sense that we don't receive almost no spiritual insights from the Baba centers. I don't know what they're doing there. This is, to me, a sad tragedy. I'm not, of course, upset or disturbed about this, but it's saddening to see we have had such grand opportunity and we don't take advantage of it. What messages we get from the trust? Is the problem with the authorities, problem with the taxes, making a memorial tower. Now they want to make a canopy, build a superstructure over the Samadhi. And by the way, during maybe 15, 20 years ago, while traveling back from Meherabad, I used to go to Meherabad once or twice a year, mainly to do spiritual work. Just we were invited by Bauji to stay in Meherabad, so I made preparations to move to Meherabad. At the same time, I made preparations to stay in Israel because to leave Baba, to leave him the decision where to go, and he eventually decided that he wants us to stay in Israel. When you work with the Avatar, you must be flexible. You don't make a decision, you give him the free, so that he will feel free to direct us. Even we give him the freedom of directing us, not always he wants to use it because he's not sure. He knows if this is coming from true cause or we just want to get rid of our self-imposed, self-created burden of suffering. Whatever there is, it's being self-created. So he knows if we really want to serve, we just want to get rid of our troubles. So we'll take our troubles on his head. It's not going to be. And he knows.
I agree.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
I agree. He knows.
Actually, we have touched quite deeply various issues. Problem of humanity, how to heal it, touch to the core. I have been watching sometimes Baba meetings. Nobody's dealing with this as it is being dealt here, unfortunately. Okay? Now I'll stop the record.